maybe I should change my topic right now. So anyway.
I thought you were going to say maybe I should change my top.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. My shirt. Okay, so we're going to change my top. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Living Your Best Life with Benny.
And Valerie.
And I said Benny, and I was going to say, and Patty, because that's my wife.
I was going to say, and Iggy.
That's right. And Iggy's here. Hi, Iggy.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice. He's got a deeper voice than I do. Doesn't he?
He has a deeper voice than I do, too.
It's not quite the same thing. Okay. Anyway, this is the podcast where one of us chooses a subject and springs it on the other person. And not usually, all the topics are about trying to live our best lives. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, move from one thing to another.
And you know what I've noticed about doing this is that every time you bring a topic up, you question me to where I'm like, I don't think I bring questions to you, like, to really put you on the spot. I think you try to really like trick me or something.
Oh, well, this one's not going to be like that. I actually already told Iggy the topic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this one won't be like that. Or I mean, you always question me.
Well, that's true.
You always question me,
yeah.
but yeah, what are you talking about? You always say to me like, okay, what is your issue with
never
food
mind.
and whatever. So
I take it back.
Yeah, you're a total liar. I'm stopping the podcast. Everybody stop. Don't listen it. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Well, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Guess what, chicken butt?
Maybe
we really should start this over.
You're going to tell something about work. You're going to tell
How
something.
did you know?
Because I'm amazing.
I got my school site switched.
Yay!
As of yesterday, I'm back at home, Lincoln Elementary. I am so excited. And so all of that, people kept asking me, like, how did you get it switched? Because I put in a transfer the day I got my assignment. Here's the thing, you guys. For me, I did kept saying the Serenity Prayer, and I always mess it up. But it's
God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change,
the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
There it is.
And here's the thing. I had wisdom to know there was a difference and that I could actually make a change because I never got a hard no, you can't go back. And so, and the reasons that I was switched to this school site and somebody else was switched to my school site did not make sense. And so I just needed a legit reason why they put us in the places that we were going to be in, or no, you cannot switch. But until then, I kept making the phone calls. I kept sending the emails very politely, very, democratically. I wasn't like trying to be a witch about it. I really wanted to be kind and just understand it. In the end, they were just like, okay, you're going back to Lincoln.
That is very, very
yeah.
cool because I know it was stressful. Not stressful per se, but it wasn't. It just wasn't the experience that you had at Lincoln the last couple years, right? You've been at Lincoln a couple years?
A couple years.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, though. I think everything happens for a reason. And I think I was put at Victor to be there a couple weeks working with some of the very, very disabled children, if you will, like a lot of very low, there was autism.
Low functioning.
Yeah, low. There was autism.
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Down syndrome. Like there was just a lot, whether it be physically, whatever. And it just brought me back to my launch days, launch preschool, where that's where I was trained in dealing with a lot of these children. And going back to Lincoln, I'm working with a few different students now, and two that I'm very familiar with. They're in 4th and 5th grade. But a new kinder came in that just came from launch, and he's being assessed to get a para. But they're like, can you work with him at least a couple hours a day? Like go in there at this hour, then go back to so-and-so, and then go back with the student. And just being at Victor, it was learned, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, it all came back. So now working with this student, I'm just like, all aboard. Like there's no questioning, like, what do I do here? What do I say here? So it was, and so I feel like things happen for a reason.
And I'm really happy for you because I also know that because the listeners don't know, but that school is really close to our folks. And so you get to see mom again.
Every Thursday morning, have coffee with mom before work. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. So, and dad, because dad comes in.
Because he comes in, yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. Well, I want to tell you about our poopy week. You ready?
I am.
Okay, good, because they don't know you're nodding. Okay, so no, what happened with us is we went to Costco.
Oh my God. It's your birthday, though. Happy birthday. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you. God, you scare me so bad. I don't know. Oh my God! I thought you had some big story about Costco.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay.
Yes, it's my birthday.
Moving on.
You know what's really great about my birthday is that you'll still always be older than me.
I know.
Sorry. Okay. Anyway, but thank you. Yes, it's my birthday. And I am 54 years old.
Oh, great. Now everybody knows how old I am because you say I'm older than you.
Yeah. But they don't really know. It's just unless they can add 4.
Okay. Tell us about.
So anyway,
Tell us about Costco.
So about what happened at Costco is what happened at Costco was, you know how you walk in and they always have those guys that are selling something, solar panels, air conditioning, whatever. And we walked in this time and AT&T was selling something for their phone thing. And we always just walk by. And for whatever reason, this time, this young lady, I don't even know if I should call her a lady, but she's just a young woman.
Gal.
Yeah, young gal, whatever. And she comes out and she says, how many lines do you guys have? And we told her. And then she says, well, I can get you. And she does a quick thing on the iPad. And she goes, I can get it to you for X amount. And we were like, holy cow, that's way cheaper. And with new phones. Like we were all going to get new phones. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up, long story short, pursuing it. It meant switching from AT&T, T-Mobile to AT&T. And, you know, they always tell you it's going to take 20 minutes, 2 hours later.
Yeah.
We finally did all the transfer and then the phones came, but my in-laws are on the plan. And so they live in another state in Missouri. And so we have to send them to them. Mm-hmm. And so we've had issues with U.S., the post office. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, Patty was like, I'm going to spend more money, but we're going to do it FedEx.
Yeah.
And so she sends it. My in-laws call a few days ago and say that they were stolen. So I'm thinking when Patty told me this, that they were porch pirated, like somebody stole the thing. No. They opened up the package and opened up the iPhone boxes and everything's in there but the phones.
Oh.
So that means that the FedEx people themselves opened up the package, opened up the 2 phone boxes, took the phones out, put them in, and then resealed the FedEx thing. And then sent it. And so I guess they probably know that it's really hard for FedEx to track when this kind of a thing happens because, see, that package is still going to go through the whole process.
Right.
So where did it get stolen? I don't know how they identify that.
Oh my gosh.
So the really fun thing is, just using that serenity prayer that you just said.
Didn't work for me.
It's like Patty's saying it. She has no serenity. The truth is that because we're on the hook now for 2 phones.
Oh my god.
For AT&T.
So they don't have like an insurance.
Well, Patty insured it for $25, which was basically the bag. I don't know how much she insured it for, but not enough.
But not for
it's
the
basically $1,500. It's $1,500 or whatever. So it's irritating on several parts because, for one, it's like I wish AT&T would have just sent the 2 phones over there. That's number one. Number 2 is it's irritating because Patty purposely did FedEx thinking that's going to be better than doing USPC.
USPS.
Yeah, that's it. And
Yeah.
and now
Can you
we're dealing
stop
with this.
doing
So
that?
yeah, I'll stop shaking my leg. So anyway, I'll just move my knee back and forth instead of bouncing. Okay. But so the thing that's just a drag about it is now Patty was on the phone with AT&T trying to figure out how to work this out for an hour and a half. And then she was on the phone and then she's got it. So now she's dealing with both. And I keep saying Patty because she's thankfully doing it because I'm working and still doing, and I'm in the middle of school and 2 big projects. So she's taking care of it, but it's just not been a very fun experience.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like the luggage thing we mentioned, a long time ago. It's kind of like a lot of this is out of your hands. And now we're just on the hook for these phones.
Oh my gosh.
And AT&T says you have to, what is it called? You have to get the phones going. What's that called? You have to activate the phones within 30 days. So that activation date is coming up, and then I don't know what happens. I guess everybody explodes or something. I don't know what happens if you don't activate it. I'm not sure what happens, but
Wow.
but AT&T hasn't been friendly. You're talking to people in South Africa, and even though they have pleasant accents, they don't necessarily
Yeah, they're
know
just
what's going on. Yeah, they're
Right.
just reading the script. You know,
Yeah.
they're not doing anything proactive.
right.
And so
Oh my.
so
God.
that's been our week with that. And
Well, can you? I know this might be. I'm just asking. Can you just go back to Costco and say, never mind, we don't want to do this?
well, that is the next. That's what we were considering, is saying. And AT&T already said we can turn them in, and not to Costco because they really don't have anything to do with it.
oh, just go back to AT&T.
Just go back to
Uh-huh.
AT&T and turn them in.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still which would resolve the issue of having to get the phones done and all that stuff, and we would just go back to T-Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
But then we still have to deal with FedEx and the phones,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So isn't that fun?
Yeah, no, that's
No, it
not
isn't fun. You're right.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy that they packed it all back up.
Yeah,
I mean, they
isn't that
wrapped it
bizarre?
up.
Because, like I said, I thought it was porch pirated.
Yeah.
and then
No, they
later,
got
and then
it.
I said, sweetheart, I said, they could use their homeowners insurance. I figured to get the money.
Yeah,
to
because
get
if it was taken off their porch.
Yeah, it was taken. And she goes, Benny, it wasn't taken off the
Wow.
porch. The phones were taken out of the boxes and
Wow.
resealed. I was like, oh my
That's
gosh.
insane.
So this is somebody who's done this multiple times and really understands the FedEx process.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. You
so
can't.
that-
Where do you start with FedEx? Like, do you start with the person that picked up the package, the person that put it in the truck, the person that?
Yeah,
took
I
it- I
would
mean,
really doubt that it's the drivers, because they don't have the ability to quickly do something like that, nor do they have everything to seal everything
That's
so that
true.
it looks,
Yeah.
like it was originally sealed. So I would imagine it's somewhere in some warehouse where
Yeah.
somebody got it, somebody did their thing, and yeah, I mean, this is gonna, and if they did it so blatantly, and so I'm gonna call it professionally robbed, that they knew where the cameras were. And
Right.
they
That's
know
what I was going to
everything.
say. There's got to be cameras.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. The serenity prayer literally is all you can do in situations like
Mm-hmm.
this, because otherwise you're just, it's just frustrating. In the end, it's just money that we don't have. But but
In
anyway,
the end, yeah.
yeah. But anyway, that's that. So
Uh,
so you ready for the? Are you ready for the topic?
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And by the way, you said you didn't. You just. This is in this podcast that you were telling me that I always ask you questions,
Yeah.
right? And so
That was just a few minutes
that
ago.
was just a
buddy.
few minutes ago. Okay, so I am. So I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I would really like to know your deepest, innermost thoughts on the subject of. No, I'm kidding.
I know. I'm looking at Iggy like, wait, Iggy knows what the topic is.
No, you know what? This is going to be a fresh topic, and it's going a direction that we haven't really gone before.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling it'll go back to a lot of similar things, but I just want to ask you this, and I kind of prefaced this with you about a week ago because I mentioned something, but
Uh-huh.
I want to know what makes a good boss and what makes a good employee. I just want to talk about, every single person listening is probably working for somebody, or they are the person that other people are working for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering what makes it so that a person is someone we want to work for, and what makes it so that I can be, the best leader and also the best employee, and not only get my work done well, but also, because to me, that's part of living your best life. Most of us spend a significant amount of time in our workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we make our workplace a place that helps us live our best life?
Right.
So that's kind of
Well, as a employee, I do have, and because I work in a school district, I have a few bosses, if you will, because I have my immediate supervisor, who I'm going to say is the learning center teacher, and then I have the principal. And so for me, having those two bosses, quote unquote, is that what you're saying? Employer. I think for me, what makes them a good boss and what I consider it being a good boss is someone that, oh God, what's the word? I want to say collaborate, but I don't necessarily mean that word. I mean, it's not like a control thing on how they treat you.
Micromanage. Like they don't
They
micromanage.
don't
you.
micromanage. They this is funny, going back to Victor, my immediate supervisor, the learning center teacher that I had there. What I loved about her was she constantly said, "Thank you so much, Valerie." You know, it was like I felt very appreciated, you know, and it made me want to work harder. Not that I wasn't doing my job good enough, but it made me want to continue. Whereas if you feel like you're not appreciated, you're kind of like, what does it even matter at this point? You know?
Yeah.
And as far as an employee goes, I mean, I'm obviously just like kind of generalizing right this second. We can get more in the meat of it. But as far as an employee goes, I think that, I think it's very important to do the jobs that your description already entails you to do, but also reach out, and when you don't have something to do in your job description, reach out and do things to help in other areas. Don't just stick to what you're supposed to do, and don't wait for somebody to tell you or ask you to do something else, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
And so
What I think is interesting, though, and I'm not disagreeing with you because I totally disagree with everything you say. No, that's not true. I disagree with I agree. Okay, I'm going to say this again.
okay.
Deep breath. I agree with everything you just said. What I'm going to add to it, or maybe tweak it a little bit and see what you think about this, is especially that last part when you're saying, you know, okay, I'm going to go back to living your best life, and just that whole idea of how do I make it so that my workplace is a really good place. And so one of the things that we could talk about is, if you want to shine in your workplace, it's do what's even beyond your job description. Like that's how you can shine. And ultimately, I think that's probably how you can live your best life, because not only are you going to get promoted, but people will look towards you, and you just feel more confident in your workplace. But then the one thing I get concerned about folks that go beyond is, well, I should say I've worked with people who go quote unquote beyond, and sometimes they get a little irritating, because it's like you're out of your lane and you're telling, you know what I'm saying? In other words, I guess it depends on what, I guess it depends on
Well,
the
I'll give you
job.
an example, because last year, it was my first year. No, it was my second year at Lincoln. But anyway, I'm going to give you an example of just something. Like, there was a student that came in from LA Unified, and nobody knew anything about him. They hadn't gotten anything in his queue. They didn't know. He was off the wall. He was off, just bouncing. And they're like, I don't even know. I don't even see anything here. They didn't send anything over to let us know if he has an IEP or whatever. All that said was, my student had gone to speech, so I didn't need to be in the room with him. And I just looked straight over and said, I'll be right in. I will come and help. And then went in and helped with that kid. And then because he was so like all over the place, I called my teacher and just said, let me know when my student needs support, and then I will come right back. But I knew that there was a need there, and it wasn't like, you know, I don't think I was being irritating. I think if anything, they were they were. My principal walked up and said, I cannot believe I heard you just stepped right in because you knew that there was a need there, you know? And so that's all I'm saying. It's like, I feel like some people feel like they can't step out of the box. They have to stay within or they're lazy. They don't want to,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I feel like wherever I think there's a need, if my job is already taken care of, quote unquote, then I should be able to go over and offer help or support somewhere else,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
And for you would say that makes you like live your best life. It doesn't put stress on you. It doesn't make you
because I take pride in what I do, and I really want to help. I
Yeah.
really do. That's living my best life for sure.
Yeah. And so then, have you been around people? I'm asking this because, okay, I'm just gonna put
No,
it on
ask
me
it.
because
Have I been around people? What? I want to hear it.
No, well, have you been around the people that are annoying? Have you had people that you work with? It doesn't have to be in your current ones. So since
I mean, there
they're
are
listening,
people that
maybe
are
there are
anno-
people listening. So maybe you want to talk about 20 years
I mean,
ago.
no, there are people. This is why I think an employee that is a self-starter, that I think that is a good employee. I also feel like if you build like some kind of a relationship with your employer, with knowing there's still a respect level there, but I mean, I have worked with people that will only do what they are supposed to do and only do if they're asked to do something. Otherwise, they'll just be literally just sitting around doing nothing. They're like, oh, I work in a school site. So again, oh, your student isn't even here today. Why are you in this classroom? I could use you in X classroom, Oh, well, I didn't know. Well, what are you doing? You're just standing here.
Yeah, right.
So, if you're going to ask about irritating, that's the only thing I can come up with. I can't think of somebody that overdoes what they're supposed to do and it's irritating. I can't think of that.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing that's interesting is that, so I'm going to bring myself up is I get really, and this is where I'm not living my best life, is that if I think it's great when I can reach I can go the extra mile and I can try to do things that maybe are beyond my scope. The one thing that I have an issue with that's my personality, quite frankly, is what ends up happening is I start placing an expectation on everybody to have the same thing.
Right.
And so if I start doing that and the other people are not doing that, it's not a matter of fairness. It really has nothing to do with being fair, because as far as I'm concerned, it's like I'm getting paid and I'm still getting paid. So why does it matter? It doesn't matter as long as I'm doing my job.
But the other person's still getting paid too.
They're getting paid the same amount or whatever they're getting paid. I don't even look at it from a money standpoint as much as I just go, it doesn't make me live my best life when I am starting to judge the other person or starting to think they should be doing that as well, or why don't they do that? And then I start judging. It just makes me uncomfortable. It just makes me angry, right? It doesn't make me. And so I guess where I'm coming from is that what's interesting for me is somehow, I don't know what the balance is, or maybe you could just talk me through this, but it's like, if I work my tail off and I really want to advance okay, I'm going to give you an example. I worked at Amazon for a while, and it would drive me crazy because there was 3 of us that did this one job, and this one job was very physical, and we kind of rotated the most physical portion of it. And there was one guy who he would just always skip when it was his turn to do it. He would figure out a way that he would not do it. And honestly, it was like, as far as I was concerned, I listened to books and I listened to other things at the same time that I was doing it because it was brainless. And so for me, it was like, but I have to admit, and I just said, I'm just going to do it. But it irritated me, it just irritated me. And then it wasn't helpful for me to be thinking about.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, it does, because I'm going to go back to just working at Victor and toileting kids. All of our students had to be taken to the bathroom, and they were either in a diaper or a pull-up or what have you. And there was several times we would do the very same thing. Us paraeducators would rotate the session, if you will, to toilet the kids. We had to take them twice a day. So anyway, but there was always one para that never went into toilet ever. And so I get what you're saying, but I did feel that for a half a second, like, well, how come she never has to be on this rotation, But then I was like, you know what? This is my job. This is literally what I'm supposed to be doing, that we all have to take turns toileting. If she's not going to do it, whatever. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing in this particular job. So I had to just let it go. But it didn't eat me up but 30 seconds, because then I was just like, whatever. I mean, I have to be doing this anyway, so it doesn't matter if she's in the rotation or not.
Right. Well, and I think that's the key that I'm getting at in my own mind is, I think for us, there's two. I mean, right now, those are the example I gave, at least, is a very low end type thing. But the mentality is still there, because I've done other things where I don't understand why certain people aren't doing these things and other people are, and it just, it can eat you up and ruin your day. It can ruin even your not just your work day, and make you feel resentful regarding your job and everything, and certainly toward the individual. But then you bring it home, you end up bringing it home, and it feels, and then it's kind of like, I hate that. And it's like, and then I just don't like the idea that I have to wash my hands of my job. I want to, not that I want my job to be my life,
right?
But on the other hand, I don't I want it to, when I walk home, when I come home, well, actually I don't come home because
Yeah,
I
you're
work
here.
from home, but when I'm at home, to me, this is a place of serenity, peace,
Yeah.
joy. I just love being home.
Yeah.
I really love being with our family. I love it when people come over. I think there's just a lot of peace. Well, I want my work to at least feel like that. Now, I can't be responsible for everybody else and how they feel and how they make or how they act.
Right.
But I guess I can be responsible for how I respond to them.
Totally.
I guess.
And let me ask you a question. I don't know where you're going with, if there's something that you're trying to get at with this topic or not. But,
no, this is it.
but
Seriously.
okay, no,
It's not
okay.
getting
So
much deeper.
that's all I was going to say was that I think that if you don't worry about what somebody else is doing and you just take pride in the job that you're doing, then you are good.
Yeah.
Because, and that's what I always have to tell myself when you do find there's a little bit of frustration wherever. My goal is to do the job the best I can do and take pride in it and feel good about it. At the end of the day, did I do everything that I could to the best of my potential? I did. I can't worry about if somebody else didn't, or
Well, you
in my
can
mind
worry.
they didn't.
You can worry
but
about it, but it'll mess
choose
you up.
not to.
Right,
Exactly.
That's the key. Iggy has something to say. He has the
Iggy,
microphone up. I saw it.
I want to know Iggy as a supervisor, right?
Manager. He's an
Manager.
ASL.
So what would you think makes a good employee, out of curiosity?
Dun, dun, dun.
I can think of this one time when I was still a supervisor. I was working with someone who wanted to move up to be a supervisor, and at the time we were in the middle of this like really busy period, and this person was like, I had him on a certain position, but then they started like stepping off to help here or help there, which you could say is a good thing because now they're taking initiative to help.
But you needed him to be somewhere else, right?
Yeah. So then we had a talk afterwards where it was basically like a saying from a basketball coach that I follow. It's like to star in your role. Mm-hmm. And where while it's good that you're showing you can do all these things and you're like putting the shine on yourself, in the process of you putting the shine on yourself, you're taking the shine away from the team as a whole.
Gotcha.
That's really good,
That
and
is,
because
yeah.
and that goes back to my staying in your lane thing. But I guess you know what it comes down to, and Iggy, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Had the person done their job really, really well and helped, it would be fine. But if they start, well, in your roles though, it's different because you really have to stay in your lane. 'Cause if you get out of your lane, if you get out of the lane,
Iggy works at Starbucks. He's a manager at Starbucks. So that, I mean, obviously, if you've gone to Starbucks, you know everybody has a lane, and if you're not taking care of that lane,
so if
then,
you're
yeah.
on bar and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you go and be great at customer service with somebody, well, that's not helpful to the many drinks that are needing to be made.
Exactly.
Right
or
now.
leaving the drive-through because you're going to go do pastries or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No, and I get that part of it. That makes a lot of sense. And that's why I did preface when I said I like to help out in other areas when needed. If I know that my actual job description is already taken care of, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm not leaving a student behind or a teacher in the, dust because I decided to go help somewhere else. I make sure this part is done. I just don't like idle time. That's the other thing too. So like if my student is going off to services, whether it be speech or assist or whatever, okay, where do you need me? What would you like can I help in the classroom? Should I go help with another student? Like, I don't want to just be standing around. Like, I want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess what the question is that because you're obviously high energy, you've and you clearly, like you said, I take pride in my work. So I guess the question would be to any listener who's saying, I don't like my job. I don't really care about my job, and honest to God, it's just a check for me. It's just a check, and it's just something in the meantime while I'm doing something else. I love what I'm doing right now, but I'm trying to get marriage and family therapy degree, and I'm gonna and no doubt that's gonna transition me into something else. It certainly, depending on it doesn't matter. But the point is, I love what I'm doing, but on the other hand, it's not necessarily. Here I am, 54 today.
Yeah.
And I'm still going through another transition in terms of a job.
Right.
So I guess the question would be, if you're a listener and you're saying, well, I'm not, this is not my bread and butter. It's not what I care about. It's not even the direction I'm going. Then how do you still continue to live your best life? And I'm throwing it out there. I'm not necessarily saying I have the answer.
If you guys remember, not you as listeners, but maybe you do, because I know a lot of our families listening to this, but if you remember, Peter left his business of 25 years with his partner and in the jewelry business. And for the last, I don't know, I want to say 3 to 5 years, he was not happy there at all. And there's multiple reasons why he was not happy there. And I'm not going to get into that right now, but it had a lot to do with how the business was going because of the way the partner was acting, because of his own personal issues.
Right.
That said, there was many times that I said to Peter, like, if you're not happy, let's just move on. Like, a lot of times it's not the only choice. So you're saying, like, if you're out there, listeners, and you're not living your best life at the job that you want, then start pursuing something else. Maybe look and see if there's something else that'll make you a little happier, more fulfilled, even if it might be a little bit of a pay cut. I don't know if you can afford a little bit of a pay cut, but or look for a side hustle, if you will, that will bring in a little bit of money that maybe will give you time and buy you time to move into something else that you really like. Or what I used to tell Peter, because he did have to still go to this job, he's like, I don't know what I can do to make the same kind of money. I mean, he ended up finding a job doing the same thing, or not the same thing, but making the same money. But you're going to be there anyway. You got to go.
Yeah.
So you
make the best of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why are you gonna go there and hate it? Well, I think you're bringing up something. You brought something up right now that I thought was interesting. Is that I think one of the ways that this just came to me. I think one of the things that you can do if you're out there and you're feeling stuck in your job. Unfortunately, I know that there's a saying out there. I think it said, if you're doing what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think there's very few people that actually get that. Mm-hmm. I mean, in other words, it's not that you can't love your job, but it's not like you're doing what you really want to do. In other words, it's like you might love the people, which I think is a key thing, building good relationships, having good relationships, fixing relationships. I love Brene Brown stuff. If you ever read any other Brene Brown stuff about leadership or anything, what's interesting is that it's all about relationship.
Yeah.
It's really not about
the actual job.
Yeah, it's not about the job that usually
I think
is
that's
the issue.
huge.
It's about how do you connect with people, and how, like you mentioned, your boss being. I had a boss one time who never. Iggy and I were just talking about. Always when they walked in the door, literally my head went down because I was like, okay, what's wrong?
What am I doing wrong now?
Because it's like that's the way it was every single time. What's wrong now? Even though we would have accolades, like literally win different things for whatever. I'm not going to get all the details, and then never talk about it. Only talk about, you forgot to cross this T. And so it was just really kind of irritating. And it really made it so that I was not excited to work there.
Yeah.
And but what you can do, and what is a smart thing for people to do, is to look for other avenues to express, whether it be creativity or whatever it is that you really truly have a passion for doing. So maybe you're not going to make a ton of money. I remember her sharing this story about Etsy. Is it Etsy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was sharing how there's these people who they have a professional job. Let's say they work at a bank, and they might even be executives. But then on the outside of it, there's one woman I remember specifically that she makes candles.
Yeah.
And she honestly doesn't make a lot of money out of it. But what was interesting is whenever anybody talked to her about it, she would just say, "Oh, I just do that. It's a hobby." But and she would never say, "I'm a candle maker," because she really didn't make her money doing it. But the truth is that finding our identity in what we do is always going to be a problem, because it's like there's always somebody that's doing it better, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And so if you find it in what you do, then you're always going to feel like I'm never, satisfied. I'm not saying that we should never continue to try and grow. I think that's like part of actually living your best life is lifelong
For
learning.
sure.
But I don't think that if you have a mindset that, in other words, I think this is fascinating. It's not so common in other countries. It's really common in the U.S. But when you sit down next to somebody and you have a conversation, almost the first question always is, what do you do? Nobody
Yeah.
says, what do you like,
Yeah.
or what makes
Yeah.
you tick, or
Yeah.
what do you enjoy?
And that's very interesting what you just said about that, because a lot of times it was funny. Peter used to say this to me a lot. When people would ask, what do you do? I would say, oh, I'm a paraeducator. I work at a school, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you never say, oh, I'm a beauty counter consultant, or, I'm a Modere representative, or whatever. I don't even know what Modere people are called, consultant. But those, as much as I love what I do in my day job as a paraeducator, I really love working for Modere. I love working, because that is really where my passion is, like health and wellness and healthy supplements and all that kind of stuff. So it's funny, he goes, you never say that. And I'm like, and you're right. And because it's like a side gig, if you will. And so it brings in a little bit of money, but really what my day job is my job,
Yeah.
But
and I just love the idea of us changing the conversation. I heard this a while ago on Instagram, this young lady who she did a graduation commencement, like she spoke at her commencement.
Mm-hmm.
And the long story short is she was very excited about what she was going to do. She ended up having a traumatic brain injury because of a softball incident. And a lot of what she was going to do, she couldn't anymore, like literally. And so she obviously graduated still. But what it did in that transition period was make her go, I need to stop identifying myself by what I do.
Exactly.
And then, and I really needed to identify myself by who I am, and what, how, the way I perceive it is the way God has made me. And to me, we're living our best life when we're living according, really to the expectations, the person that we ultimately can be. And when we're kind of feeling like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. It's like, that to me is like that the devil on the shoulder saying that you're not able to be that person, and maybe you're not going to ever make money. Like, that's not maybe going to be how you make your job, so to speak. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it can't be something that you do that's very important to you. It gives you energy, gives you life, and it's perfectly acceptable for you to say that I'm going to spend time doing that, regardless of the other consequences, because you're saying, no, this is part of what makes who I am. Yeah, exactly.
And I like that you said that, because I think that even if you're in a job where you feel stuck, like you're like, this is all I can do right now. This is where I have to be. Whatever the situation is, and you feel like you are just stuck in that position. If you're bringing to the table who you really are, like if you're not looking at it just as a job, but like, I'm going to put myself, who I am, into this position, it might change the outlook on how you feel about it. And that's what I was going to say about with Peter. It was like, some of my suggestions were, well, you only work with this, I'm not going to say his name just in case, but you only work with your partner on air this amount of hours a day. For the most part, you're over there doing the shipping and all this other kind of stuff. You can put your headphones on, listen to your favorite music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and Peter's always kind of like that, walk around the place whistling kind of thing. And then when this person would walk in, he'd go, oh, he's here, you know? But it's like, so, but I liked that you said who you are, because I think that if you really, I think that's why I enjoy what I do. And I feel like that's why I try to make sure I'm energetic in what I'm doing and putting my best foot forward and always being positive about it, is because this is genuinely who I am and who I want to be in all my roles.
Right. Not just a paraeducator. It has nothing really to do with that. It has to do with, this is who Valerie is.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what makes you, so that's what's interesting, is being the person that you are. Because see, what I don't want to do is isolate people that are out there and going, well, I'm not that.
I'm not in
I'm quiet.
I'm
quiet. I'm reserved, and so on. The thing is that we need to be who we are. We need to embrace who we are. We need to be accepting of that. And then, I do think it's important that we do the best job we possibly can. And you know, we didn't even talk about leading, to be honest, which is interesting, but our time is almost up. But
well, and then real quick, what you said about the relationships, I think that's very key. I think that a lot of people don't like where they work because of like their coworkers, yeah, or what have you. So if you could, you know, find that close niche person that you want to just like confide in, hang with. Try to build some kind of relationship if you can with your boss, because I mean, sometimes they feel like they're not approachable, or they're not, but maybe you're bringing to the table that you're not approachable either. Like maybe you're saying, I'm just your employee, you're just my boss. You know, I loved, you know, even with my principals, we have a new principal this year and she's amazing. I've only been with her for 2 days, but you know, it's just one of those people where I would just walk up and say, how was your day? How are things going? Oh, it's a bad day. I'm so sorry, you know, and just move on. Like I wanted her to know that I was approachable too. I didn't want it to be, but again, you're right. There could be people that are quiet. Like I am not going to walk up to my boss and, you know, start conversing like that. But
there's a thing that we want somebody. Yeah, my wife's raising her hand saying she's not going to do that. She's not that you don't work your tail off, though. You do work your tail off, and you do more than what's in your job description. But the thing is that I think it's hard. I think there's so many different little. I think we're going to have another podcast on the other component, like how to be a good leader, because I do think there's something to be said about the culture of a place, and the people that drive the culture are the leaders. So, I mean, yes, the worker bees can do that, but
you're right.
But if you have a boss,
if you have somebody that's
that is like critical or condemning or anything like that, it doesn't matter how great your people are. They are going to end up being part of that culture. And so they might be good to each other, but the overall culture, which is what I hate saying this, but you can walk into some homes and you immediately feel the culture is like, oh, this is not an open place.
Yeah.
This has a different feel to it. And there's ones that you feel like, oh my gosh, I can kick my shoes off.
Right.
I feel very comfortable pretty much immediately.
Right.
And I think that same thing takes place in workplaces. And so I work for the church, you know, as a pastor for a gazillion years. And I used to say to people, people would say, oh, do you like being a pastor and all that stuff? I say, oh, I love being a pastor, except for the people. But and I was joking, but I'm just saying that because you know, the people are what make it great, and they're also what can kill it, man.
For sure. Yeah.
And
but I think you're right. I think we should touch on the leader part, because you're right. I think the leader is what creates that culture. So I could have a good relationship with my coworkers, but if you walk in and you already feel that, you know, negative, you know, micromanaging kind of person, or just the not happy one, you know what I mean? And so that's,
well, a lot of leaders, this is really another podcast because it'll take a long time, but a lot of leaders, their identity is so wrapped up in what they are, so they feel threatened by other people. They're fearful to make hard decisions, whether that decision is this person isn't good for the company and we're going to have to remove them, or having conversations. Iggy and I right before, and we're talking, and this has happened with me, it's happened with Patty, I know for sure, is a boss, like there's 10 people on the staff and one person is doing something and they send an email to all 10.
Right.
Instead of just talking to the person who's got the issue and saying, hey, we need to discuss
that happens
this.
A lot.
It's like, no, I'm going to send it to everybody. And then what you just did was you just said to the other 9 people, am I doing something wrong?
Yes.
And they weren't.
But they didn't want to single one person out.
But they didn't want to single one person out.
Yeah.
And so it's really just a chicken way to go about it. And not only is it chicken, but it creates a culture of insecurity. It creates honestly, especially in the case which is often the case, everybody knows who the boss is talking to. And now it's really created this environment that's awkward because everybody knows. And instead of just going to that individual.
Right.
But there's so many other aspects that we could talk about in that regard. So I'm going to have to surprise you with, okay, how can you be a great leader one day? So we'll do that on another time. So, well, I hope that this was helpful. I feel like this went by really fast for me. It went by really fast, but we didn't laugh a lot. Do you want to laugh? There you go. Nice job.
That was a good laugh.
That was a good laugh. So, but I do think that it's good.
Because we all are employees or we're employers. And so it's good. And
that's right. Even if you're an employer of your own house, if you're a house mom, you're still running that house. You're still creating the culture. You're
100%.
Still setting that and you're setting that tone for the house. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a big deal, and obviously an important job,
Yeah.
regardless of what you're doing. So we're really glad you guys are listening, and we want to encourage you to please do us the wonderful favor of subscribing, as well as, if you can, comment, depending on what
You're listening. on.
yeah, what you're listening
Because
on,
I
like on
have, and I
YouTube.
think I might have said this last week, I'm not sure, but I have had people reach out to me personally and say, "Oh, I love your podcast. It's so good." I love that you're telling me that. It would just be great if it just helps the algorithm with the podcast, wherever you're listening to it. If you would like it, subscribe to it, or share it with other people.
Yes, share it.
Yeah.
Put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
Share it.
Yeah.
Share the actual podcast, or this particular podcast, if you think it's helpful for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't claim to be experts, but I'm
try to live our
but
best
I'm
life.
54 years old, so I know. No, I'm
Yes.
just kidding.
we're gonna start living our best life in our 50s.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So anyway, we're very glad you're with us. Please follow us. I'm at Benny Gonzalez. Isn't that right?
You ask every week.
And I forget every week. Is it Benny Gonzalez or Benny Gonzalez? It's Benny Gonzalez. Just at Benny Gonzalez at Instagram, and you are.
I'm a daily dose of _ Coco.
Oh, not the whole word, just like the little.
A
line.
daily dose.
Okay. And then and so yeah, if you would like help too, if you want coaching, if you want any kind of, or you want a topic to be talked about, if you just
Yeah.
want to hear us like gab, then let us know. That would be great. Send us a DM.
Yes.
So we'd love to hear from you, and thanks for listening. It's good to see you, Val.
Yes. Have a great week, you guys.
Have a wonderful week. Make it a great week. Ciao.
Bye.